Okay, thanks, Will, for that amazing introduction that I'm not going to be nearly as funny with. I am Beth Stewart, Executive Director of Redress Raleigh, and we're a 501c3 nonprofit. Next slide. This clicker thing is kind of weird. So Redress started quite a few years ago because I was looking around at other fashion shows and noticed that there was nothing that I was really connecting with. Either there was fashion that ignored the ethical and environmental aspects, or there was fashion that was, quote, eco-fashion, but it was like made of trash, like this Jimmy John's dress that you see down here, or it was super unflattering, like the super cute burlap sack that model is wearing. So I decided that I wanted to do something about it, and Redress Raleigh came out of that. Next slide. So Redress Raleigh focuses on fashion that is sustainable, innovative, wearable, and accessible. So it does consider the impact on the earth and human rights, but it's also stuff you want to wear and that you look good in. It's also made of textiles, which is very important for the future of the textiles industry. And it's accessible. It doesn't cost $50,000 for a dress. So we started in 2009 with our first fashion show. Next slide, please. And we've done a lot of fashion shows. This is just a sampling of our pictures from our fashion shows, considering we've done 9 shows in the past 7 years. We have hundreds and hundreds of photos, so should you want to go to our Facebook page or our website, you will see a lot more. What we consider to be sustainable fashion is a little bit wide-ranging. We don't have a very specific perfect garment because that doesn't exist. So we consider things like natural dyes, organic fabrics, upcycling, all of which some of these pictures are showing you. Also domestic production made in the US or fair trade, for example. Those are all aspects that consider the impacts on the earth when they were created. Next slide, please. So our challenges as a company, because I was asked to talk about this, the biggest one is consumer misinformation. I'm betting that if a lot of you looked at a shirt and it said, this shirt was made by a woman that can't even afford to feed her kids, and it polluted the river right down the street because of the dyes that were used, I'm betting that you would not buy it. Otherwise, I might have some questions to ask you other than that. But that's not what you're told, right? When you go to the store doesn't tell you that, the company doesn't tell you that. So there's a lot of misinformation about what companies are actually doing. There's also a lot of misinformation about what sustainable fashion is. Like I just showed you on that first slide with the Jimmy John's wrappers and the burlap sack, that is not what we are. You saw the other pretty pictures, that is what we are. Second, there is not a lot of infrastructure here in the US for textiles. One of the main things that we're working on doing is bringing that back. 97% of apparel is not made in the US, and it used to be the other way around. 97% used to be made here. So we need to bring that back. And there are a lot of companies that are starting to do that, and you're gonna hear from some of them actually tonight. The last thing that we're very focused on, having done that many shows with emerging designers in the past few years, is the barriers to entry for the industry, or the lack of understanding of how to go from just making things in your living room to actual production with a facility. And that's one of the biggest things that we're trying to address, because a store is not going to buy the product until it's up to quality, and then the consumer can't access it until it's somewhere that they actually shop. Next slide, please. So our future. This past year was our first show to incorporate an educational and mentorship program. Our designers actually went through some classes that talked about business skills, what production actually means, all of that stuff. And then in addition, we're going to be moving toward actually selling their product in the future. This is enabling them to actually do those things that I just said, close the gap between making stuff in their living room and actually manufacturing so that you can buy it. Next slide, please. The other thing that we're doing is kind of what I'm doing now and what I just told you about bringing awareness to the problems in the fashion and textiles industry. The True Cost is a great documentary that is on Netflix, should you have Netflix, which I'm betting a lot of you do. And it talks about the impacts of the fast fashion industry. I would highly suggest watching it if you have any interest in what that means, because it does a great job of showing that without being boring, let's put it that way. We also have the Give a Damn. We also have the Give a Damn campaign, and I have no problem saying give a damn because that's really what we mean. When we boil everything down to what we're about, we're simply asking you to give a damn about where your clothes are from. So we have that as our social media campaign, and every month or so we list like a tip or different things that you can do that are related to that. Next slide, please. So this is the biggest thing that we're involved in right now. I'm actually in the middle of a creative startups accelerator. Out of 100 applications, we were one of the 10 companies selected, and we're the only nonprofit, which is pretty cool, but also terrifying. I heard the word the other day that was the combination of exciting and terrifying, and it was like excited, terrifying, and I was like, oh yeah, that's totally how I feel about this program. But what's exciting about it is that I'm not only learning business skills, which is great because I have 2 creative degrees, but I am also competing for $50,000 in venture funding and given the opportunity to be in front of other investors, which is a significant deal for Redress Raleigh because we don't want to be just a fashion show. We really want to help accelerate these designers and really make a significant impact on their future, and we can't do that without more significant investment in our program. So that's the most exciting thing we're doing. The last week of September, I will be in Winston-Salem in that program, and we will be working with investors at the end of that. So you'll be hearing some more about that after that, I'm sure. Next slide. That's all I have about Redress right now. I'm happy to take more questions about our model because obviously we only have 5 minutes and I was trying to cram everything in. You can reach us on tons of social media things, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram's my favorite, and that's my email as well if you'd like to reach out later.